Live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody, I am Brian Engelman. Welcome to the Unhappy Hour, except it's not quite the Unhappy Hour. This is a new segment. It's not really new because we've been talking about this for a while with Zak Baris, lifelong Cleveland sports fan and NBA scout. Zak is joining us again today. Say hello to everybody, Zak.
How you doing?
How are ya? Zak is with us today, and I just reminded Zak that we are going to have to title this. Off the top of your head, what should we call our Cavs segment? I have Cavs Corner, but that sounds really cheesy. I don't like it. What should we call this little thing we do where we talk about the Cavs? Well, what could we call this?
It's up for you to decide.
Well, then I'll tell you what. How about for all of our listeners and NBA fans, leave some comments. Help us come up with a name. I'll think about this in the meantime, trying to figure it out. But I guess it's a little bit of the NBA as well because the Lakers are starting off pretty lousy. But I just kind of want to get an update on the things going on in this league. You had the James Harden trade. That was interesting. The punk play that I didn't think was a punk play with Rajon Rondo. And, of course, the Cavs, undefeated, sitting atop the Eastern Conference Central Division. Yeah, one game in. So, Zak, let's talk about the first game with the Cavs. Anderson Varejao went crazy. Kyrie Irving showing that he may actually put up a legitimate threat as MVP. Do I dare say it? Not that he'll wrestle the title away from the King, but he's looking fantastic.
In order for Irving to be considered for an MVP candidate this year, the Cavaliers have to win around 45 to 46 games.
And how many do you think they're going to get? How many do you think they'll end up with? 38, 42?
I think they're going to wind up with somewhere in the high 30s, I tend to think. I mean, their bench is atrocious.
Yeah, you were commenting on that. Night. Yeah.
I have to say I was extremely impressed by the starting lineup, between Varejao, Thompson. Thompson looked, like I predicted, a lot better than last year. He looked a lot more polished. He looked great around the rim. I have to say that. He was really, really, he was just really, centered around the basket all night. And that's where he left a lot of his attention. He was putting up dunks. He was receiving passes. His hands looked to be improved. Varejao, his passing is just, you forget how good of a passer he is. The guy had 9 assists the other night.
Right.
And, they'd be sitting up there running picks and screens at the top of the key, and then he would move to the basket. The Wizards would be waiting for it, and Thompson would be sitting right there. I can say that, I think Thompson had a dunk on 3 straight possessions, after getting dishes from Varejao right down by the hoop. And it just looked, it looked like the offense and that fast play, fast-moving offense seemed to be really working for the Cavaliers. But the problem is their bench is incredibly weak. You cannot have Luke Walton playing valuable minutes at the end of the game, especially against a team like the Chicago Bulls, who have a much better bench than the Cavaliers and a much better coach than the Washington Wizards, the other night. Randy Whitman is no Tom Thibodeau. I'll tell you that right now. And I think that Cleveland tonight, in order for the Cavaliers to win a lot of games this year, you're going to have to see the starting lineup playing almost 40 minutes a night, constantly.
Well, that was, remember, way back to the LeBron James era, that was the Cavs' strongest point. We had a deep bench. We had really solid players, 8, 9, 10 really good players sitting there, where when our starters would come out, we'd be pretty solid for most of the at least the regular season.
But you cannot have Luke Walton playing any more than 2 minutes a game to 4 minutes a game. The guy just showed at the end. The first half I'm like, wow, he's not that bad, The second half, I go, okay, Luke Walton's back. This is the real Luke Walton I know. The guy missing rebounds, and I just don't understand why you're playing Walton over Caspi. I don't know what's going on in the Cavaliers locker room, but, Byron Scott tends to be, very, he tends not to have a lot of consistency in his lineups. One night he'll go from playing guy 36 minutes, the next guy he'll be completely benched, And that's the deal with Byron Scott right there. So, there's no real, predictability with him. He goes and does one thing, who knows how many minutes Cassidy's going to play tonight. But I can tell you the Cavaliers have a much bigger challenge on their hands with the Chicago Bulls than they did with the Washington Wizards. That's not saying they're not going to win tonight, but don't forget this is a team last year that lost the Bulls 3 times last year by an average of over 30 points a game.
Well, Yeah, that is true. And they played a Washington Wizards team that was depleted. They didn't have John Wall, and so people are saying, well, you beat one of the other worst teams.
I think they would have won that game with or without John Wall. I think the Cavaliers would have won that game either way.
Really?
Kyrie Irving could not be stopped. The Cavaliers were clogging up the inside in the paint all night. The problem was the perimeter defense once again looked terrible. They were leaving the three ball open all night. It's not like John Wall's a 3-point shooter. I think Deion Waiters did a fantastic job on Brad Beal. I honestly was coming out there expecting Beal to win that matchup, and Deion Waiters just, he was the better defensive player. He looked to have really quick hands on the defensive side of the ball. He's got an unbelievable drive to the hoop when going to the left. He needs to improve going to the right, but, I have to say I was definitely impressed by him. I definitely was, and, the Chicago Bulls, it was, I watched that game the other night too. And I have to say, they'll be fine this year without without Derrick Rose, for the first few months of the season.
Well, we already saw some significant action. We're talking with NBA scout, lifelong Cleveland sports fan Zak Baris. We've seen some action with James Harden getting dealt from OKC over to Houston, and I was just reading an interesting article talking about how one of the 4 Cavs draft picks are probably going to have to get traded, coming up here when they're looking for max deals or something. It's just kind of the new face of the NBA with the luxury tax and all the financial systems that are set up. What were your thoughts on that trade, and do you see something similar happening in Cleveland as some of our young players, whether it's Tristan Thompson, Kyrie Irving, Deion Waiters, as they start to come up together, that they might not be able to keep all of them?
If I were the Cavaliers, I think it's the last thing I'd be worried about right now. Tristan Thompson's never going to be in line for a $60 million deal after 4 years. Thompson's going to be getting a Taj Gibson type deal, one of those deals. We're going to get probably 4 years, $36 million to $40 million, over 4 years. And so looking for him to get about $9 or $10 million a year, or maybe even up to $11 million a year. But Irving's the one max player they have right now. Deion Waiters isn't even a concern right now. The guy's played one NBA game. And Tyler Zeller's never going to be making more than 10 a year either. I can promise you that one. At least on his restricted NBA deal. In his rookie, in his next his deal right after his rookie contract, he'll not be making more than 10 mil. Trust me. So I don't think the Cavaliers are in that problem yet where they have 3 max players. Well, right now, if anything, they have Irving's are for sure max player. Waiters has that potential, and And then you look at Thompson's going to be your next highest guy, probably anywhere from $9 to $11 million a year.
Well, let me say before we get to James Harden, because I did want to bounce around the league real quick, just kind of touch on some of the main storylines. Just real quick, find out what you think of the Harden trade, what you think about the Lakers' slow start, and then the punk play with Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade. But do you see? Are there any players that you see might be up for a trade? Something that may. Do you have any ideas, any sniff of a possible trade where Dan Gilbert might be able to pull the trigger and get something done to kind of improve the team outside of the draft, maybe coming up in the next few months here? Is there anything on your radar yet, or it's just too early to tell?
I don't think anything big, but I think one of the potential guys you could see in a deal, but I just don't know if the Cavaliers would be interested in, is Tyreek Evans. He's going to be, Sacramento obviously opted not to, re-sign him in a deal. He's going to be put up on the trade block. He's one of those guys that's going to be around at the trade deadline. And the Cavaliers do lack any talent at the small forward position, it seems to me at least. He could be in the running, but I don't know what the Kings would be asking for him, nor do I think it would be much, nor do I don't know if the Cavs would want him either. I just don't know if he'd be a piece the Cavs would want.
Okay, well that's the trade scenario.
This game's already starting to get out of hand between the Cavs and the Bulls.
Are there any? What's the score update right now?
It's 4-0, but the Bulls have the ball, just got to steal. So,
but is there another situation where? Are there any players with contracts with teams that are in over their head? They're just trying to shed some contract weight.
Yeah, but I just don't know why the Cavaliers would take on a horrible contract. Their goal right now is, to basically, sit there and wait to play free agency in a year or two, when they realize and get some extra picks still, and then, try to go from being a mediocre team to suddenly going and being, a star-studded team. That's what they're looking to do. They're not looking, they're looking for gradual improvement every year, but they're not looking right now to do that because they realize unless you're adding a LeBron James to this team, they're not going to be going deep into the playoffs no matter what. So a regular piece, we're talking a Michael Beasley is not going to help this team out that much. So that's what you have to look for. You got to hit the home run, and it's all or nothing with the Cavaliers. I mean, you could see them making a trade for depth mid-season. Obviously Orlando's going to have some guys available, but it just depends what they want. I don't think the Cavaliers are willing to sacrifice any, first-round draft picks for any players right now. And they don't really have any players on the roster that are even tradable at this point. Unless players that they're going to, other than Anderson Varejao, and I think they're going to ask a lot for him, especially if he's healthy, because he's going to put up such, big numbers on the defensive end, and he's a really smart and efficient player.
Yeah, and that was one of the underrated components to a lot of those Cavs teams when Andy was there. And people say, the Cavs never had any supporting cast for LeBron. He had to leave to succeed, which is just a bunch of garbage witnessed by a healthy Andy. What was it, 23 rebounds? I mean, that's a pretty strong performance. But I wanted to ask you about this, a team that did, like you said, the Cavs maybe be mediocre for a while and then take that jump to become an elite team. Out in the West, Oklahoma City, they were an elite team. Kevin Durant and Westbrook. and
They built entirely through the draft, though, and their situation's a lot different than Cleveland. They went from Seattle as a basketball team. They went to Oklahoma City. They knew when they went to Oklahoma City it'd be impossible to attract free agents over there. It's impossible. If you think Cleveland's tough, imagine going to Oklahoma City. You see players tweeting all the time when they're in Oklahoma City going, there's nothing to do in this town. Saw it last year, with Dwayne Wade tweeting it during the NBA Finals. And it's just the thing is Oklahoma City it's strictly you're going there to play basketball and do nothing else. They're not known for their nightlife. It's different. I'm out in Los Angeles, most of the year, and I go back east, once a week, to report for work. And I can tell you right now that when players go to cities like, L.A. or Chicago or New York, trust me, they love being there. They love going out on the town. Every night I'm out in L.A., there's always different NBA players, sitting next to me at tables or even at my table. It just depends. And I can tell you right now, Cleveland, they have one chance of landing their superstar, and that's LeBron James getting him back in 2 years.
You always got to bring that up. You always bring that up.
Well, I'm saying, no, they're not going to attract a normal, without LeBron James, they're going to have trouble attracting a star free agent, who's worthy of a max deal.
Yeah, I hear you.
They can always overpay someone and bring someone to town, too. But honestly, if it were me and I'm looking at the situation and they do get LeBron back somehow, and LeBron's going and teaming up with Irving, they're going to have any guy in the league who's going to want to play in Cleveland at that point because, anybody's going to want to play with LeBron and Kyrie. So, you're going to have the top guy at each position in the league at that point, and it's going to be an attractive situation, especially if you want to win a title.
Well, let me ask you about the top team
in Oklahoma City.
Let me ask you about that top team in the West in Oklahoma City, though, because they traded James Harden. Are you a fan of what happened? Who came out on top in that deal? Was it something that was necessary?
I think Houston got a great deal. I think Houston gave up a couple of draft picks, but I'm not a Kevin Martin fan. Kevin Martin, the guy, never heard of the word defense before in his life. And Jeremy Lamb is, he's going to be riding the bench for the majority of the year. He's not going to see legitimate action right now. And I think Oklahoma City's window was so small to win a title, and they gave up on that so quickly. I just think they could have pulled the deal after the year. They could have worked a sign and trade with James Harden and done something of that sort, or see how it was going throughout the year because, Kevin Martin's not a bad offensive player, but they don't exactly need scoring. You have Westbrook and you have Durant. You didn't need scoring really in your backcourt. What you need front court scoring. Last night, Oklahoma City's front court, in their loss, put up a total of, their starting front court put a total of 6 points between Serge Ibaka and Kendrick Perkins.
Wow.
You're not going to win too many games when your front court's only putting up 6 points. And I think they needed a different kind of addition other than Kevin Martin. Jeremy Lamb is good for the future, and you had to get draft picks. But, there's sometimes you have to take a chance and play the lottery. And I think they should have given Harden the max deal that he would have accepted, but they didn't want to go into the luxury tax. I don't blame Clay Bennett, but, if it were me, I probably would have done it, But, Bennett probably had, ultimate restrictions on Sam Presti and said, we're not going to be paying this much in the luxury tax. We can't afford it. Our ticket sales aren't high enough. Our TV revenue isn't high enough. They looked at every situation, and they said this is the best possible outcome. And they pulled the deal as quick as possible because they probably thought it was the best deal they were going to get. It might not necessarily have been. I think a team could have offered something up for a Harden, I think the Cavaliers probably would have offered up a combination, maybe. I mean, I'm not saying they would have, but it was always possible they could have offered up, Waiters and Varejao, and they could have gotten the deal done too.
Well,
I think that would have been a better deal. I'm not saying the Cavaliers would have given that up.
Right.
But, if I'm sitting there and I'm Oklahoma City and I can go, listen, we can get Deion Waiters, the 4th overall pick this year, to replace Harden. He's a work in progress, but he could be a great player. And you're getting Varejao, the guy, you got another offensive rebound. I believe it's the second one of the game already.
He's a beast.
And,
Z taught him well.
And that's the thing with, Oklahoma City. I think their championship window's closed for the year. Not necessarily, but I just don't think they're a stronger team. They're certainly not going to beat Miami this year with that roster that they have in place because Harden was a much better player. Look what he did when he went to Houston. The guy's a star. Doesn't puts up 37 and 12 in his first game. And he's going to be playing consistent 40-minute games this year. He's got a chance to put up 28, 29 a game this year.
Well, let's talk for a second about a team that might be able to beat the Heat. Go over to the East real quick and talk about the Boston Celtics. The punk play, as Dwayne Wade called it, with Rajon Rondo.
Whether you think it was or not, that was a punk play. It was on purpose. And I can tell you, if you're a Cavs fan and someone and Rondo did that to Kyrie Irving, you would be saying the same thing. You would be saying the same thing I'm saying right now.
I don't think I would. There was he
wrapped it around his neck. It was a bit of a punk play.
He didn't clothesline the guy. He grabbed a collarbone. And he let the guy go. He didn't slam him to the ground. He didn't stomp on him or crush his. Yeah, come on. I don't think so. I think it was total whining and crying from Dwayne Wade. I really do. I don't think there was any story.
I think it was embellished a little bit, but at the same time, I think Wade managed to embellish everything, but still, I don't think it was a flagrant 2. It was a flagrant 1. Clearly, is what it was, and that's what it was called. I don't think he deserves a suspension for him. It's not like he punched the guy out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He didn't run up into the stands.
And that's what he deserved. It was, a flagrant is always a dirty foul. It was a dirty foul. Now, the extensiveness of being how dirty it was.
See, I didn't see it as dirty. I didn't see it as dirty. I just saw it as a strong foul.
It was a flagrant for a reason, and it was a flagrant 1 and not a flagrant 2 for a reason.
Did you see Dwayne Wade wind up? He grabbed the basketball and wound up. He almost launched that ball off of his skull. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but he didn't.
He did not, and I don't think it was a dirty play. I just think it was fine. It was a hard foul, and he didn't even slam him to the ground or hurt his tailbone or give him a concussion, cracking his skull. To me, it was much ado about nothing, but much ado about something is this Lakers team. This is in our backyard, and we're watching this. What do you make of the Steve Nash injury, being 0-2, Kobe telling everyone to shut up? What do you see in the future?
Listen, there's 8 spots in the playoffs. There's 8 seeds in the playoffs for a reason. All it's going to take is 46, 47 wins for them to get in. Trust me, the Lakers are not going to miss out on the playoffs this year. Remember, the Miami Heat started 9-8 a couple of years ago, or 9-7.
Right.
And then they took off. There's going to be chemistry issues, and you're playing with a new point guard. Don't forget, Kobe's always dominated the ball his entire career. He's never played with a legitimate point guard before in his life. Who's actually a strong point guard. Derek Fisher's been his best point guard. Or Nick Van Exel his rookie season. He really hasn't had the opportunity to play with a legitimate point guard, so he's always played on the ball for 15 years in his career. Now he's getting the chance to play with Nash. It's going to take some time to adjust. I would say another month and a half before you really see what the Lakers can do. Dwight Howard's coming into a new system. They're adjusting to a completely new offense. It's going to take time.
Dwight Howard,
it's going to take time.
They're
not going to start the year off 0-12, though. I can promise you that. They're going to win some games, and once they gain some momentum, they're going to win. They played against a bad Dallas team and lost to them. In Portland, Damian Lillard looks like the real deal up there. He looks really, really good. And I think, and the Lakers never win in Portland anyways. Even if the Lakers were at full strength, I still said they would have lost that game. They don't ever win in Portland.
That's a weird trend. I wonder why that is.
They just don't play well over there.
Well,
it's one of those. It's like the Cavs have never played well in Toronto for some reason.
Well,
I don't know what the deal is, but they just don't play well in Toronto.
Well, if the Lakers didn't play well up in Portland, does Dwight Howard look healthy? Does he look like he's a player
He looks
that's going to bounce
fine.
back?
He looks like a guy though. He looks a little bit rusty and looks like he hasn't played in the game in 6-7 months. He's finally returning to full NBA game action. The guy only played in one preseason game. Like I said, I would not panic if I were a Laker fan right now, which I am not. But I'm saying I would not panic.
However, if you end up going to a Laker Cavs game, put me on the list. I think we need to go take in a game out here somewhere because I want to see
Clippers Cavs Monday night. Don't forget that.
Hey now. To be continued. But yeah, I like watching this young Cavs team, but with the Lakers, it's an older team. Steve Nash, should we be concerned that he kind of tweaked himself?
I don't think there's any reason for concern yet. I mean, that's not saying there will be. I just don't want to blow anything out of proportion here and say that the Lakers are in big time trouble. Because they're not in any trouble yet. They're 0-2. It's an 82 game season. And I'm pretty sure they'll be okay.
And regarding,
I wouldn't be shocked if they weren't.
Yeah, same here. And you did pick Lakers in 7 when we did our NBA preview show. Lakers in 7. We'll see.
I'm sticking to it. I'm not changing it. Yeah, the Heat looked phenomenal the other night.
I'm not going to let you
doesn't mean
change
I'm changing it.
I can't. I would not allow you to change it. The predictions are predictions for a reason because then when injuries start happening and different storylines emerge, we never know what's going to happen until you're halfway through the year, and even then you don't even know what team's going to get hot at the right time. But I think the Lakers are going to be fine too. People are already saying Mike Brown's on the hot seat and. I don't know. We'll just see how the year shapes up. But
I just don't know how you can put a coach on a hot seat after 2 games. The guy always wins regular season games. I think it comes down to matters if they fail in the playoffs again. I think then you have to realize that Mike Brown cannot win at all.
And then maybe he won't work in the league anymore. If that's the case, you've had Kobe and you've had LeBron and you couldn't get it done. That's harsh. That would not look good on a resume. So,
yeah, and the Cavaliers are starting to get dominated early right now. They're down by 8 with Dane going to the foul line.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'll let you get back to the game here. I don't know, Cavs Corner, strictly Cavs. We'll figure out what we're going to call this segment because I do want to kind of just focus on Cavs. But, regarding the rest of the NBA, are there any other emerging storylines after a couple of games? You said Damian Lillard looked really good up there with Portland. Anything else jump out at you besides the Rajon Rondo and the Cavs 1-0 and the Lakers slow start and the Harden trade? Anything else on your radar?
I think the Eric Gordon injury shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone. Once again, the guy's out 4 to 6 weeks. But he doesn't want the surgery alternative. So he's gonna try to rehab it to come back. I just can't see this guy ever playing more than 40 games in a season.
You said that last year. I remember we were talking about it as they went into the draft, and I mean you've been saying this for a long time on our program, just how fragile this guy is, and that it's not worth taking a risk on. And I was starting to feel the same way about Kyrie Irving with his foot and then with his hand and then with...
no matter even if Kyrie only averages 40 games a year for his career, he's still worth the max money. He's that good when he's healthy. Trust me, he's a young kid. He'll be fine. I think Eric Gordon knows that consistent knee problems year after year.
Yeah, that's harsh. When you're just... You got the talent, but you don't have the durability. And that's the one thing LeBron, up until this point, I mean, so far, I mean, the guy runs into brick walls every night, and he stands up every time. I don't know how he does it so consistently, but some people break down, some people are tough, and the dude's at least physically tough. We know that. So, okay, so Eric Gordon, no surprise that he's down. Anything else on your radar across the league? Only a couple games
right
in.
Now. I
mean,
it's
early.
Not too many observations. I got to say though, I do like these Cavs new uniforms. I don't know how long they're going to be wearing them for, the yellow home ones, but I do like them. It's the second game they've worn them in a row. I don't know when they're going back to the white, but I kind of like the yellow ones. And I have to say I've been entertained by the new uniforms. I like the Spurs new ones, and I want to see. I also want to see the Brooklyn Nets play. I want to see them breaking their new court.
Yeah, if they can ever get past Superstorm Sandy. Let's go into overtime here real quick and just bounce over. Thoughts on the Buckeyes? Another win, first team to 9-0. Urban Meyer has a team playing tough. Yeah, maybe not dominant. It took him till the second half to really get it going. But, like you said, this is a team that could go undefeated. Any new thoughts on the Buckeyes right now?
Yeah. The reason they seem to struggle in every first half they play in, and they blow teams away in the second half. That's what they do. That's their game. one of the reasons why they always have such great second halves is because they make such great adjustments. Urban Meyer's a fantastic coach, and you really got to give him props for it too. He's probably the second best coach in college football.
And I had somebody stop me. I had somebody stop me out here, and I told Brandon this when we did our Strictly Browns segment. I said someone stopped me in Hermosa Beach when I was filling up my gas tank. We were going in to pay for something, and dude said, "Oh, Buckeye fan." We started talking. He's like, "Well, I'm actually glad that we're under suspension so that we don't go into the championship game and get blown out by Alabama." Where do you think the Buckeyes would be if they were eligible? Do you think that they could go undefeated? Do you think they could play in a championship game? And if so, do you think they would get blown out? Could they pull it off?
Like I said earlier, I think they could. I don't think they could hang with Oregon. I think Oregon's defense is too good this year. I think just the speed Oregon has, and with Ohio State giving up so many big plays, I think Oregon is not a team Ohio State would want to be facing this year. I think it'd be a horrible matchup for them this year. I'm not saying next year, but this year it just doesn't seem like it'd be a good fit. That's the one team I would not want to play. I think Kansas State, Colin Klein would have a big game against Ohio State too. But, I think Kansas State would be a good game with Ohio State. I think Kansas State would win. I bet you Ohio State would beat Notre Dame, though.
Well, Notre Dame might beat itself, but it's nice to see. I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but it's nice to see them ranked very high. It reminds me of how football is supposed to be.
It's nice to see them relevant again. They haven't been relevant in my lifetime, basically. Notre Dame, since I've been watching college football since the early 90s, I can say, I was born in the 80s, but I didn't, when I was younger, became a fan. And I can say consistently, I've never seen Notre Dame have a good football team. They put up 2 decent years, and they got blown away in the Sugar Bowl by LSU, and they got beat by Ohio State pretty badly in the Fiesta Bowl, and that was, and it was nothing to write home about when watching Notre Dame. Those were the best teams. They were losing to Michigan every year, even when they were supposedly good. And it's just, it's nice to see them finally have a decent team.
Let me ask you this. Is Braxton Miller a legitimate threat for the Heisman?
He needs to improve his passing the next 3 games. But, I think if Ohio State manages to run the table and he can improve his passing, yes.
The guy's a hell of a dynamic ball carrier.
I think Kansas State also has to lose, though, too. I see no way. If Kansas State goes undefeated, Colin Klein's got the Heisman locked up at this point.
Oh, locked up.
Or he's just been phenomenal all year. Manti Te'o has been fantastic, too.
That seems like a bit of a long shot, though, a little bit of a stretch over at Notre Dame.
He's been, Notre Dame's undefeated for a reason. He's the reason why.
All right, and then let's bounce
It's like Charles Woodson. Michigan won the national title when he was there. They would not have won without Charles Woodson.
That guy was a freak. I wish he wasn't there. I wish he would. He never went there.
But the thing was, Charles Woodson was an unbelievable player. He was the reason why Michigan, was so good. And it's just, and one player can make all the difference sometimes. And he did it.
Well, Trent Richardson made a pretty big difference for the Browns, and we'll wrap it up here. Any thoughts on the Browns moving forward? If Josh Gordon catches that ball against Indy, this is a team that could be on a 3-game winning streak. Some people say if Meacham catches that for the Chargers, it evens out, whatever. But this is a team that, to me, seems like they're showing some promise. Any thoughts on the Browns?
They better do something against Baltimore's 28th ranked defense this weekend. They need to go out there and they need to go put a statement on and try to, they got to beat Baltimore. Pat Shurmur wants to keep his job. You can start by winning this weekend. It'll go a long, long way if you can beat Baltimore.
Absolutely. It would feel nice to get rid of Randy Lerner and beat down the Ravens. I mean, we could have won that first matchup, and there's no excuses. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Just go out and do it. They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I have to say though, like I said, I was not a huge fan of Brandon Weeden earlier in the year. But he's been improving every week. Like I said, he threw 9 picks in the first 5 games of the year. He's thrown 1 in the past 3 games.
Right.
He's looked a lot better. And the receivers look, they're looking a little better too. Especially with Gordon. I want to see what happens when Massaquoi comes back. Because I do like Mohamed Massaquoi.
Yeah, they're saying he'll be back this week. That'll be back this week.
I mean, they need him back. They need his hands back in the lineup. He's great on those. He's great on those quick slant routes. And that's where they need him. So, and I think the Browns will be able to run the ball all over Baltimore this week. And at least they should be able to like I said, is last week's key to winning last week's game. And I remember I said it is when the Browns need to be able to get Richardson outside off the tackle. If they can do that, he is so hard to tackle in open space. And look what he did when running the ball to the outside last week. He was unstoppable. And then they go, and try to punch it in there every time, through the guards and off the center. And it just doesn't work.
Well, and this week, too, Phil Taylor's coming back on the defense. And,
I think that's a huge addition getting Phil Taylor back for the Cavs. For the Browns. It's a huge addition, for that D-line, especially. He was fantastic last year. I think it'll help Jabal Sheard out, the top of Rubin and Frosty Rucker. I'd like to see what the D-line can do at full strength. Obviously the linebacking core is not, linebacker is a huge issue for the Browns this offseason. If they have a top 10 pick, which they most likely will, they need to go out there and try to get a Jarvis Jones or a Manti Te'o, for this defense, or drafting someone in the secondary.
What do you think Phil Taylor would look like in a Cavaliers uniform? You had a slip of the tongue there, and it got me thinking, what if he played for the Cavs?
A bigger version of tractor trailer.
Double tractor trailer, double wide. No, well, yeah, it's
more like a semi-truck.
Well, it's nice to see. You're right that Brandon Weeden is starting to look like a really solid quarterback, and if we can keep him for 4, 5, 6 years, even though he's 29 right now, team him up with a young, healthy Trent Richardson, and there's talent on this team, and I sure hope we're starting to turn the corner. It would be nice to see as the Cavs start to come up again.
Luke Walton just airballed it. I just don't understand why he's playing for the Cavs.
Yeah, well,
I do not understand. He just airballed an open jumper from about 10 feet away.
Well, Luke Walton was part of the deal that got us Kyrie, right? Am I remembering this right? It was part of the deal to take.
No, he was not.
Hang on. How did we get Luke Walton then?
We got Luke Walton the Cavaliers got Luke Walton in the Ramon Sessions deal.
Okay, that was Ramon Sessions, not the one that went to the Clippers with Baron Davis and the draft pick that the draft pick turned out to be Kyrie. Okay.
Walton was involved in the Ramon Sessions deal, so basically...
Where is Ramon Sessions right now? I lost track of him.
Sessions is on the Charlotte Bobcats.
Oh, that's what he chose? Okay.
Yes.
Well, good for him. Anyhow, Zak Baris is a regular contributor to us over here at the Unhappy Hour on the NewAmericanMedia.com. Please be sure that you go ahead and follow him on Twitter. He's at ZBaris, ZBaris. And on your Twitter feed, I saw that you ordered fries at the Greystone Mansion. That Greystone Mansion is an amazing place. I've been there. Did you have fun?
Greystone Manor. It's Greystone Manor, the club in West Hollywood.
Okay, because there's a Greystone...
There's Greystone Mansion in Beverly Hills, and there's Greystone Manor, which is the club in West Hollywood.
Ah, okay. See, I thought you went to some private...
Greystone Manor.
Either way, ordering French fries at a club is cool. I noticed the Grey Goose. Looks fun. Well, Zach, hey, go check out the Cavs game tonight, and we'll be talking soon. You take care, buddy.
You too. Thanks for...
That was Zak Baris. He was saying thanks for having me on, and I cut him off right at the end there. But yes, Zach is a regular contributor over here on the NewAmericanMedia.com, the Unhappy Hour. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it. Go Cavs, go Browns, go Buckeyes. Go Indians, I suppose. I'm Brian Engelman. I'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
You are listening to the New American Media.